This is Capsule on liveandlimbo.com. My name is Sean Chin.
And I am Andreas Babiolakis. This is an adventure into film, music, and pop culture.
This week has been a pretty busy week in the music industry in Canada. We had the Polaris Prize, and our good friend Dakota, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Great.
You did this big feature where you kind of polled the entire or most of the Live and Limbo team, and you wanted to do something interesting and predict who the winner was.
I guess, it was a combination of wanting to predict it, but also I kind of want to see where everyone's taste lied. I know that asking people to rank the 10 best albums nominated by the Polaris Committee is a very subjective thing. And I knew going into it, whoever came out number one, which ended up being Arcade Fire, was probably not necessarily who I thought was going to win, just more so what Live and Limbo's writers thought was the best album of the group.
And speaking of who actually got it right, and it surprised everyone, was our own Randall Vasquez. Hey, Randall, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. This is your first debut appearance, I guess. Is that on a podcast? Appearance on the show. And you're our longtime director of photography and editor. So, yeah. So maybe what did you think about all of this?
I just thought it was a really fun thing to do. I mean, get a chance to listen to, good Canadian albums. I thought it was great. I've been listening to Polaris listening to the albums or checking it out for a while now. So it was nice to, see where the team lied and where everybody's tastes were as well.
And did you listen to the Polaris stuff like in the past before? Like, were you following all that stuff? Like in past years? Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yes.
So maybe quickly, since you're a big part of Live and Limbo, briefly describe how you joined us. I've described this story to other people before, but maybe we can get your perspective on it.
I guess it was, I don't know, it would have been 2009,
yeah.
2009, right? I met you at a show. I think we were shooting Birthday Massacre.
That's right.
That's right. And I guess it just started a relationship from there. I mean, I guess we got along. We talked here and there, and liked some of the same bands, I guess. And I think he asked me to come along with the website, and I kind of thought it'd be great to, get together and join, build a team and do something. So
you were like, who the hell is this guy?
No, not so much. I was like, oh, there's an opportunity to, like I said, build a team and just grow within that kind of structure. So I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, and that was at the Mod Club, so I love that venue. And so I think it's interesting because Live and Limbo, what year? 2009, and that was in May. So for maybe a few months in 2009, Live and Limbo was just a blog, just by myself. And then, yes, I met you at Birthday Massacre. And then I think when you agreed to join on, that's when it officially became like a website and not a blog anymore. And for some reason, you decided to stick along for the next 5 years, and we're still here. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
So Randall was the very second person that worked with you?
Yes.
Wow.
5 years.
It's kind of like the Foo Fighters actually started off as a solo thing, and suddenly it's something else.
and Randall, so you were running your own blog. How long were you actually running at the rock show for before that?
It wasn't too long before that. I'd say probably less than a year. It would probably be a year since the first entry.
Oh, so you actually probably started that maybe before I did, just a bit.
It's possible, but I mean, it was like, an entry every, I don't know, month or two. It wasn't anything real at that point in time. It wasn't until about, I guess, the end of 2008 where I guess I was started, doing it a lot more often. So,
and even when it was just the you and I for a little while, it was probably like one entry a week max at most.
Yeah, it wasn't too much. Not like what we've got now.
Now we have like 4 or 5 a day, and I can't keep the pipeline in order. So it's all good. All right, so let's jump back into the Polaris Prize. So Dakota, take us all the way back to when you first woke up in the morning and you're like, yes, let's survey everyone.
I had originally thought of doing this pretty much the way it was last year.
Oh, damn.
It didn't end up working out. I wasn't able to get enough people on board. This was not with Live in Limbo. And so I ended up just writing about my own personal rankings. And while it was interesting, and I gained a real appreciation for all of the nominees, and I thought they were all solid nominees. I feel that it was only going so far. I don't think I was trying to recapture what the Polaris Prize is all about, and that's having a group of people discussing great music. And as difficult it is to objectively call one piece of art better than the other, sometimes it can be done once you break it down enough, sort of. So once Polaris was coming up this year in the summer and they announced the long list of the 40 best albums, I kind of thought, I was like, hey, maybe I should try this again. So I honed down what exactly my objective was, and I kind of brought it to you, and I'm glad that you were on board with that as you usually are, and you let me do some pretty crazy ideas. So I'm really thankful for that.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes. No, thank you.
So I was very happy that you were interested in that, and I came to you and I said, okay, you know what, let's start out smallish. I asked for 6 to 7 names of people on the site that you think would be interested in it, and that would have a different taste of music. I don't want you look at the nominees. I didn't want 10 really hardcore hip hop fans, and number 1 and 2 was Drake and Shadow on everyone's albums, and then like, oh, who's Arcade Fire, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
F Arcade Fire, like after they won their Grammy, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Didn't want that. So like, I was very happy with the list of people that you gave me, that everyone kind of seemed to have a different style that maybe they preferred, because I went over and I looked at some of their recent posts after you gave me the names of Leon and Tashana, and I'm definitely more familiar with Andreas and Randall's work, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. And going over everyone's work, I realized, okay, hey, Andreas usually normally likes the more obscure indie stuff or the really hard stuff, and I know.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, your taste definitely comes through in your work, especially the type of shows that you decide to review and the albums that you decide to review. And the same for Randall and yourself, Sean. So I was very happy with the list that you gave me.
And don't forget Sarah.
And Sarah, oh yes, of course, Sarah. I find that
our trusty music editor, who is completely wrong.
I find Sarah's taste in music is kind of like a mix halfway between Andreas and I, where we have quite a bit of overlapping, but there's still that stuff that separates us.
Yeah.
So overall, it was a really nice balance of everyone's styles that they like. And you gave me these names, and luckily when I sent out the proposal, everyone seemed excited about it, and I was a little worried. I was like, oh, I'm probably gonna have to send out a million emails and make sure people are actually listening to the albums, because the whole point of it is you have to listen to all 10. If you don't listen to all 10, your ballot doesn't count as much. So I was really going out on a limb, hoping that, Randall, I know you're super busy with everyone that you work for and all the shows you go to. Would you have enough time to listen to them all? With Sarah and her 50 million jobs that she has, would she have enough time to listen to them all and be able to objectively criticize the albums, criticize in the proper context, not put it down? And everyone sent me back full ballots, so I believe everyone did their due process and at least listened from the album front to back at least once, if not more. Yeah.
Well, I gave you those 7 people because I thought they had a very diverse taste, and that's why they're on Live in Limbo. We need like a diverse taste, so everything gets covered. So that's good.
Yeah, we do.
And so maybe Dakota, do you want to run down the top 10?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this year was excellent for Canadian music. There is some very interesting stuff being made. And even if you don't like all 10, if you go to the top 40 list, there is every type of genre of music that's there. And I've got nothing but respect for Canadian music that's being made right now. There's some unbelievable stuff being created. But I will break this down, I guess, from number 10 to number 1 for the way it turned out.
Yep.
Okay, and in 10th place, we had Timber Timbre's album Hot Dreams. Now, I'm very upset at this because I ranked them for 2 overall. And, you know, when I'm a big Timber Timbre fan, and I went into this thinking, oh, I'm sure some people probably like them as much as I do. I don't think they got more than a 8th place vote, higher than that.
Ooh. Was anyone else here a big fan of them?
No, that's what I mean. No one ranked them higher than like 7th or 8th.
Well, because you were forced to rank it, but like, did anyone like them in general?
It seemed like, because I also asked everyone to provide like a quote, a 1-sentence review or such.
You were the only one that quoted.
Yes. Obviously, the purpose of doing that was, you know, if your number 1, number 2 rankings, you're obviously going to give the most glowing review about it. If that album ended up in 9th or 10th, there's still a bit of a glowing review for it to reflect someone's positive tastes. Because I know some of the comments I received were, yeah, I really didn't care for this album. I'm not going to put that comment up for one of the albums because I want to showcase what we liked about it, per se. A few people, I think, I'll bring up the comment. I think, Andreas, you kind of gave it a mixed review where you're like, yeah, parts of it are good, parts of it don't work.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not a bad album. I just think that it's very singular in tone, and it does have great ideas, but it just didn't sit well with me. And I wasn't voting based on the Polaris. I was doing like an opinionated vote, right? And
Not just based on critical, like.
Right. So, like, because I knew that, I went with my gut, and that's how it felt, sadly. I didn't put it last, or I might have put it last, actually. You know, Yamatanka, Sonic Titan I did, but it was down there for me. But it wasn't bad. None of these albums were putrid or anything.
No, none of them were terrible at all. That's why they were all shortlisted.
Absolutely. And even, like, on the long list, you had, like, a lot of good stuff, as Dakota said. So, yeah, like, would I listen to it again? Probably not by choice, but, you know, it's still a pretty good album, but there you have it.
Yeah. All right, what was number 9? Number
9 was Yamantaka Sonic Titan with their album Uzu.
Actually, I really did not like this one.
This I feel like had the potential to maybe pull off a real like upset as far as with the actual Polaris, like Godspeed You Black Emperor did. You know, it's kind of a very complicated record with some abrasive noises, some very far out concepts, but then mixed with some traditional pop melodies here and there. So I really was not sure how people were going to receive it. It was lower on the list for me for sure, and it seemed like almost everyone else put it fairly low.
Sarah seemed to like it.
Sarah liked it the most, and that was a 4th place for her.
Wow.
That's not bad.
Yeah, everyone else, it looks like the next highest was a 7th place from Tashana, and then after that it was like, I think it got 3 10th place votes or something like that.
Yeah.
That was
how come you consider Godspeed You a bit of a surprise win, actually? I wanted to know what you thought about that quickly, actually.
That was actually my favorite one of last year.
Oh, yeah.
When I did my listing, it came out number 1. I just feel that it is a very complicated record because there's no vocals to it. It's something that you need to listen to several times to kind of grasp what they're trying to get. And I know, talking to a lot of people, they really didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah, especially when I was at the gala, a lot of people really didn't care for it. They're like, oh yeah, Godspeed You. Yeah, I guess it was okay. I didn't really care for it. I wanted so-and-so to win. I wanted Tegan and Tara or Metz or whoever they thought it was.
Oh yeah, like the typical kind of like, you know, like you've got the melodies as an hour, whereas Godspeed You, it's like a listening process, right?
It's 4 songs, and 2 of the songs are about half an hour.
Oh god.
So
it's I don't know about that, but it's their shortest, but it's still like an hour long. Right.
It literally is. I own the actual record. It's a full 12-inch record with 2 songs on it, one on each side, and then a 7-inch with 1 song on each side.
Yep.
So it's like 2 half-hour, 2 20-minute songs, and then 2 4-minute songs. It's a very weird way for them to break up the album.
Yeah, they're about 20 minutes, and like the 2 really short songs are ambient, like not even noise, but just like nature pieces where you could hear like crickets and stuff.
Birds.
It's do you hear birds? I don't recall.
I was joking.
It's a protest record per se, so you hear it kind of sounds like you're in the middle of Afghanistan sort of thing. So there's a lot of weird desert sounds, and you can hear some radio chatter and like stuff that sounds like helicopters. It's a very intense but quiet album. So it's very weird, but I loved it. But I know a lot of people didn't. In fact, my girlfriend makes fun of me whenever I say I'm making a playlist or whatever. She's like, "Oh, don't put any Godspeed You Black Emperor on it."
Wow.
If you don't, I'll put it on for you because they're probably my favorite Canadian group. How did you react to how they reacted to the prize? Actually, because I know you're all for Polaris and that they were your pick, so their huge rejection of the prize. Like, what did you think of that?
I thought it was very shitty of them and very childish. If they don't like what Polaris stands for, which I don't even get how you can be opposed to it. All it is about celebrating Canadian art and getting people who probably normally would get their due. And if they didn't like whatever they stood for, it sounded like they didn't like the sponsors behind it. Fine.
Is that like when like Samsung sponsored NXNE and the stage had like galaxies?
Yeah, it was Toyota or something, wasn't it?
Something like that. Yeah.
I hated that.
And so like if you didn't like it, you didn't have to show up, fine. You don't have to make a big fuss in the media. Just donate the check to whatever charity you want. Like I don't understand why they had to make a big deal and kind of piss all over the organization and everything and basically give them the middle finger and ensure that they'll never be invited back or nominated again, regardless how good their work is.
Yeah, let's not get into that too much now. Let's move on to number 8, which is the big one.
Yes, number 8 was Tanya Tagaq's Animism,
who actually won. Yeah,
the reason why it managed to be at number 8, it was at 10th until I counted Randall's ballot, which was the last one to be submitted, and Randall placed it first overall, so it got bumped up from 10 to 8.
So let's see this. Okay, I pulled up the chart, like your spreadsheet, which is on Live and Limbo, in the predictions article. And actually, I'm surprised to see that 3 people ranked it as 10th. Tashana, who else? Sarah. Wow, Sarah ranked it last. And Dakota, you did.
I am slightly ashamed.
How can all 3 of you that write for Live and Limbo rank about number 10? I'm joking.
I didn't dislike it. I didn't dislike any of the albums. I will be honest, I probably didn't give it a fair shake. I only listened to it once from front to back, sitting down, and then a few songs here and there. I probably should have listened to it several more times. I had a hard time finding it. Like, I didn't send out the music for it till 2 weeks before the actual show. So I did not give it its fair shake.
So even though I ranked it at 8, the first time I listened to it, I really, really liked it. And I told Randall that it was really good. Right, Randall?
Yeah, I mean...
So we got that on record.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that there.
I remember looking for it, and I just went to iTunes, and I just did the preview, and it just hooked me right off the bat. The first Pixies cover, and then I listened to a few tracks from there, and I just bought it. I mean, it was just...
Yeah, so since you ranked it number 1, what got you exactly? So let's dissect this.
Well, I guess I'm not sure if I started a little bit later than everybody else in ranking all the albums, or I don't know if I actually started later. I started earlier, but there were just some that I unfortunately had some trouble getting through, and I guess I kind of stalled a bit on it. And then I just really... I guess in the last couple of weeks or whatever, I just really tried to give every album like a few listens and get through it. And it was like I think it was the last one that I got. And it was just so refreshing and so different from all the others. And I don't know, I just thought it was a great piece of art and really powerful. So I really enjoyed it.
And so what did you think when she actually won?
I was happy.
Like happy for her and happy for yourself.
Well, I'm not so sure about myself, but definitely happy that it was, a different type of artist. And I think that, like Dakota said, it happened last year. It happens with Polaris. And I think that's the great thing about the Polaris Prize, that that sort of thing tends to happen, where you have artists that maybe a lot of people don't know about. Like, I'd never heard of Tanya Tagaq before listening to this list or looking at the list. And, I was just happy that it was her that won. It was a great performance too, I thought. So,
yeah, no, she's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Were you there, Randall?
No, I wasn't, unfortunately, and I'm kicking myself for not being there. It was it would have been something to see live. That would have been incredible. Yeah.
It absolutely was. I was blown away. I was hanging around with a few people I met there, and all of us had our jaws on the floor. The way I described it in my review of the show was, it seemed like the entire history of Native culture was put on display for 10 minutes, from like the beginning of time till now.
Wow.
Exactly that. I mean, I remember I was watching it on my laptop, and I was exhausted. I basically had shot a couple of shows that weekend, and I was pretty tired, and I hadn't really slept too much the night that I didn't shoot. So I actually fell asleep before she went on, and I got to watch it the next day because Ox had it up, and I watched it like 3 times in a row. It was amazing. So it's
3
great.
times, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's probably what she wanted to hear, the whole unit, or the united kind of like Inuit aspect, where all the culture was amalgamated into one ceremony. That's probably exactly what she'd want to hear.
Yeah, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And the way her voice, you listen to the record, and sometimes you wonder, I wonder what is, instruments that are making these interesting noises, or how much is it post-production. No, this woman's voice is incredibly powerful. I know musicians, singers will always call their voice their instrument. It truly is an instrument, because she was making these weird growling noises. She was going really loud, but also very deep, like a very primal, deep scream. She was able to make like these childlike voices, all within like shifting back and forth. It was pretty intense and insane to watch someone do this. And then she had this like 20-person choir behind her, and like they weren't singing per se. They were making background noises. So it sounded like, they were the wind blowing in the trees, they were the water crashing against the rocks, things like that, where it was just very subtle, minimal things that they were adding to kind of give some nice texture to her performance. And then she had a violinist on stage who was a madman and making these very intense, harsh sounds. I don't even want to call it music. They were sounds. Yeah. And it helped shape such a beautiful, intense, catastrophic performance. I don't even know how else to describe it. It was just a very intense thing that you felt in your soul watching her.
Wow. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, I'm glad that at least one of us got it bang on.
Well, that's how I felt really. That's how I felt really just listening to the album. And I think what's interesting is I heard some interviews afterwards, and that choir, she'd never met them before.
Wow, really?
Oh.
They basically were performing, and she'd never met them before.
How did they do that? Wow.
I have no idea, but
Professionals. I'm
Yeah,
telling
I
you.
guess so, right? Yeah, so
That's-
next year when we do this, I'm going to try get like even more people from the team. We only got 7. There's more.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. I
The
think
more
if
the
we had
better.
3 more people, the results would have been completely different.
Oh, yeah? Wait, how many are on the actual jury?
The real jury?
Yeah.
They have a grand jury, which I believe has 7 people. They were the ones that decided who won out of the top 10.
That's
So-
it? Wow, okay.
Well, there's a huge jury that during the nomination process. There's something like 50 people.
Right. Okay, that's what I was expecting.
Yeah, and then so everyone sends in their nominations of what they think the best album is, and then it gets pared down to 40 albums, and then those people revote again, and then a top 10 list is created.
Cool.
And then there's a grand jury which picks it.
Cool.
That's cool. Yeah, and then so other than just predicting it and running this survey, you and Sarah got to actually go to the Polaris Gala as you were describing before. So take us through that day.
Well, it was at the Carlu, which is right at Yonge College. I'd never been there before, but it's actually a really nice place.
I haven't either.
I guess it's used for banquets and things like that. I'm not really too sure. Obviously, it's not used for a lot of music shows because then one of us would have been there before. But it's a gorgeous facility. And so Sarah and I were there pretty early. They wanted the media check-in to be around between 5 and 6. So I got there just before 6 and basically kind of just sat around and talked and met other people of the media who were there early. There was a little bit of a media pre-interview process going on, but you had to have specifically gone through the different publicists so you couldn't just go up to Shad or Tanya Tagaq or whoever else was there, Mac DeMarco, and just interview them. You had to actually have it pre-set up.
Oh, okay.
So they were kind of walking around the room and doing the interviews with CBC and Much Music, and I'm not too sure who else had their cameras there. And then they'd stand in front of the big Polaris board like you see on red carpet events, and the photographers all took their shots where, you know, they look like cattle stuck in the headlights sort of thing. So Sarah got some great shots of that. And it was kind of awkward because, you know, the artists were there just kind of waiting around for their next interview, but we were all in this kind of small room and it wasn't very packed. So it wasn't like, I wasn't sure if I should go, "Oh, hey, Shad, how's it going? I loved your album. I don't have anything else." Yeah, I was like, I don't have anything else to really say to you, but nice to meet you. So I wasn't really sure what exactly the protocol was.
So did you do that?
No, I didn't. It seemed like for the most part they were kind of busy talking to their handlers and going back and forth. You know, I said hi to a couple of them, but like I didn't have any conversations with people in the media room. And then the show started at 8:00, I believe, and so all the industry people had nice fancy tables where they had food and little gift bags waiting for them, and it was all very nice, and all the nominees were up in the front tables and they got pampered and had free beer on the table and things like that.
And you got to go to the buffet for the media people?
No, I didn't see any buffet.
Oh, you didn't go to it?
I didn't see any buffet.
You missed out? No, I'm joking. What did you guys get?
Nothing. I had to stand in the back behind the tables. So my feet were a little sore by the end of the night for having to stand around for 4 hours. And then there was a balcony where people that bought tickets could go up there and sit and watch it. So it was like a movie theater balcony sort of thing.
I see. Yeah. And how was the host? Jay
Baruchel,
our popular mechanics host from long time ago.
And this is the end.
Yes, he was good. He was funny. Some of it was a little too. I'm trying.
Why was he the host? Did they say why he's the host?
No, I don't know. I think it's just because comedians work well. Last year they had Shad and Kathleen Edwards co-host it.
Nice.
That's interesting, actually.
I love Kathleen Edwards.
I found it to be a little awkward watching them because they're not hosts.
You know what was awkward? The Junos with Serena Ryder and Classified. That was awkward.
I didn't watch that, but I can imagine so.
Yeah. So how was Jay?
He was funny. Sometimes I felt he was not he himself, but the jokes written were a little too
written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They fell flat. Sometimes they relied on, oh, hey, look, it's Jay Baruchel and he has a potty mouth sort of thing.
Too mechanical, hence, popular mechanics, I guess, for kids because of the immaturity as well, right?
Yeah, but like if you've seen This Is the End or Goon, you know he has a filthy mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you have it. And for the Polaris, would that really match, or is he trying to do what you would find at the Emmys? You know what I mean?
Well, he was allowed to swear.
Okay.
So he did swear. He dropped lots of F-bombs and things like that. And like it was fine. It just felt a little forced at times, I feel. But overall, I think he was a good host. And then they had like a fantastic house band that would play during the commercial breaks, which I didn't realize it, but I actually went to high school with the saxophone player. So I'm listening to them. I'm like, hey, I think I recognize that guy. So it was kind of funny to see that.
Oh, cool.
Gretzky.
And then who else were great at performing?
Well, Mac DeMarco was good, but oddly enough, he didn't play a song off of his nominated album. He played a song from his last album.
Why?
I don't know.
Because it's Mac DeMarco. That's the kind of thing he would do.
It's Mac DeMarco is basically what the summary is.
You saw him at North by Northeast, right?
I
Yeah.
didn't.
No, I did.
And
Yeah,
I did
where
too. Yeah.
he basically pulled up a random crowd member on stage and kissed him.
Yeah,
That's
I
Mac
remember
DeMarco.
that.
He
Yeah.
just does Mac DeMarco things.
And so like everyone has a presenter that talks about their album and then introduces the performance if the band was performing. So a lot of journalists and things like that. And Jessie Lanza had her mom introduce her, and it was adorable. But Mac DeMarco had this guy named Chaz who was wearing a penguin suit.
Yeah, he would.
That's beautiful.
And where I was standing, I could see the teleprompter. And so I can read everything that they're supposed to be saying. And so Chaz has this speech written, yet he didn't say any of it.
Oh, really?
He
What
went
did he
off.
say?
He said a not really racist joke, but a borderline offensive joke about Italians.
Oh, okay, repeat it.
Yeah, do
Okay.
you remember it?
Yeah, I do. I didn't mind it, but I could see how it might be misconstrued. Did you know that the Italians were also involved in the space race? Yeah, the only problem was they lost to Americans because they ran out of scaffolding.
Oh, that's charming. But again, a lot of things that just don't fit with Polaris, which you'd identify as like a really classy kind of like prestigious award, especially compared to the Junos, which I find a lot more commercialized, right?
The Junos are probably a lot more stuffy in comparison.
Yeah.
With the Polaris Prize, every time that the commercial breaks were ending, the stage manager would come over the intercom and literally tell us all to shut the F up. I don't know how much you want me to swear on this podcast or not.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, well, he would say, shut the fuck up, please, shut the fuck up. And then on the TVs that would like be broadcasting, that would show what the broadcast looked like, the screens would change to take your conversations outside and shut the fuck up.
That's weird.
Wow.
So,
So,
like-
I'm entirely wrong then.
Yeah, it was definitely a very casual thing, and Baruchel dropping F-bombs and things like that. And
That's why it's not on cable television.
That's why it's on the internet.
Yeah.
I think ever since Fucked Up won, they said, you know what, we've gone this far, let's just keep it at this bar, right?
Basically. So it was kind of fun. It was very like, hey, we're Canadian and we're gonna do it our way and screw swear and tell our guests to shut the fuck up. We're gonna do that. So they did,
Oh.
which was cool.
Yeah, I guess
I
it
guess.
works out. And you finally got to see Owen Pallett.
I did, and he was so amazing.
How many
live.
times have you tried to see him?
I think just once when he was here. What was it? Late winter, early spring, or something like that. He had a show that I wanted to go to.
I know you were really upset at missing that.
Yeah,
And
so
that
it was.
CMW too, or something, right?
Oh yeah. He was at CMW, I think, and
Yep.
I don't know if it was the night of one of the other shows that I was covering, or I just couldn't get in. I don't remember. But yeah, I was very happy to see him. It was a shame, I wish I could see a full performance of him, but it was just 2 songs.
Don't be greedy. Yeah.
You got something at least out of this, right?
I did, yes. It was a lot of fun. The one, I guess, highlight, depending on who you are, I guess, Andreas, you'd love this. The punchline throughout the night was Drake.
Oh yeah. So
Was he
I'm
even
guessing,
there?
yeah, was he there?
No, Drake was not there. Timber Timbre was not there.
Arcade
So,
Fire was not there, right?
Well,
Arcade Fire had some members there. Win and Regine were there, but the rest of the band was not.
Oh, okay.
Owen was there.
Owen was there, but he's not a full-time member.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what's up with that? So what is he?
Well, he just does their string arrangements.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just like Colin Stetson isn't really a member, he just does their horn arrangements.
Yeah.
Just like a session musician, if you will.
But he's on all of their albums and tours with them.
Is Sarah Newfield an official member? She wasn't she?
I don't know.
She was there since the beginning.
I will Wikipedia this right now.
Oh my god.
So yeah, Drake wasn't there, and Timber Timbre weren't there. Neither of them performed. Arcade Fire had some members there and did not perform as well. But the running joke of the night was, Drake's not here. He's not good enough, or whatever it is, or he thinks he's too good for us. So like Jay made a joke. A couple of the other presenters kind of made jokes about it, and then when the person who got up to talk about his nomination was a writer named Anupa Mistry. She's like, "Oh, Drake unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. He's playing a show with Lil Wayne in L.A." And the audience all groaned.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like, "Oh, of course he is." Yeah.
Randall, what did you think about the Drake album?
I that's the one I had the most trouble getting through, to tell you the truth. It's just I don't know. I mean, I read Sarah's I guess quote from it, and I guess I agree to some degree. I think she said, let's see. She said that it is unabashedly egotistical. And that is what I just couldn't get through.
But for a reason.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but at the same time, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I have to say. I mean, there was a point there. I think it was from Time where I thought maybe, I don't know, there was something there that showed a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of straying from that. But then I think at the end of the song, he just kind of goes and.
Well, what do you think about him as an artist, though, representing Canada?
Well, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I just didn't appreciate. I just didn't really like the album myself. I mean, that's my own opinion. I think if he's doing well, I mean, all power to him, right?
And so, other than Tanya, what would you have wanted to see win?
I think my next choice was Bajabula, and then Arcade Fire.
Sorry, yeah.
So those are my top three.
See, for me, I really like the Arcade Fire album, but I kind of doubted that they'd win again because they just won recently. So I think there's some politics in there as well.
Well, we'll get into that when we continue the list, I suppose, right?
We're not going to go through the whole thing. There's a lot. Yeah, let's go to the Arcade Fire thing.
Okay, well, there we go then.
We ranked them as number one. We predicted that they'd be number one.
Yeah.
And they were not.
And they were not. No.
I guess they don't announce who the runners-up are?
No, they don't.
No, poor guys.
Well, the reason why Arcade Fire was the number one album for us, because the lowest ranking they got was a 6th place, 1 vote.
Like, it was a good album.
Oh, yeah. I think, for me, I don't think there's that much politics involved in it as far as the actual Polaris Prize goes, because it is so new. It's kind of hard to see what their allegiances are.
Yeah.
There's been no 2-time winner yet. Owen Pallett and Arcade Fire had both previously won. Several of them have been shortlisted nominees, and I think only 2 of them, it was their first outright nomination, short or long list. So it's still so new to find out where the Polaris lies, especially since the grand jury is different every year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if saying, oh, well, Arcade Fire won 3 years ago, they're not going to win again because it was so soon. It was their last album. We need to give them more time or whatever. I think if anything, what might have hindered them is the fact that people would go, well, Reflektor is a great album, but, we awarded it to the Suburbs, and the Suburbs was a stronger album.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes. Actually, like looking at this chart again, you can actually see it's very interesting. I think out of this whole thing, Andreas and I have the most similar taste. Ours is like pretty much almost the same, which is kind of weird. Like our number 1 is the same, 3, 4, 5, and our last one are the same. Our last 2. The 3 standout people are Randall's, Sarah. I think Leon sticks out a lot too. He said Shad would win.
I think when I was looking at it, I thought, oh wow, when you first released it, and I was like, oh wow, I'm the only one who picked her, and I was looking at the list, and I was like, wow, I think Leon is probably the closest to what my picks were like. Yeah, I think. I mean, the order is a little bit different, but overall, I think like our top 4.
Yeah, maybe yours and Leon's are pretty much the same. Like Sarah's sticks out a lot because it's like the total inverse of what happened.
Sarah's is basically the complete reversal of Leon's. If you look at it, almost nominee for nominee is completely reversed.
I wonder why that happened.
Well, what if they had a team of some sort?
Apparently she had an insider, and that insider was really wrong. Or they lied.
That's what she says.
I would like to think that we were right with the Arcade Fire, and then Polaris saw our prediction like a few hours beforehand, and they're like, oh, no, we got to switch this up. We can't make them right.
Or it's like, he's doing a DJ set, Win Butler. We need him to get his rest. We don't want him celebrating. Let's make him lose.
Yes, Coda, the club, screwed it all up for everyone.
DJ Windows 98, you're not going to win because we need you to be on top of your game.
And yeah, Andreas was there too. And you thought, how did you think they were? Your review goes up tomorrow.
Of DJ Windows 98?
Yeah.
He was good. He didn't seem like anything was bothering him at all. No,
so it had nothing to do with Arcade Fire.
No, virtually nothing. Like he played mostly like remixes of Afrobeat music. Actually,
wait. So his name's Windows 98, and he uses a Mac.
Well, I'm guessing the name's because his name's Win, right? And funny. I guess the 98 is in jest, so DJ Windows 98. So
fascinating.
No, he was good though. Yeah, it's the closest thing to Arcade Fire I've seen so far. But yeah, no, he's a nice guy and all that. And I don't think the Polaris Prize had any effect on him, regardless of the outcome.
I don't think Arcade Fire could have cared any less about the Polaris Prize.
Probably not.
They don't need the money, and they don't need that award anymore.
I don't think they'd pull a Godspeed, but I don't think they'd care.
$30,000 to Arcade Fire is
that's like $3.
Nothing. Yeah,
it's new shoes.
Maybe 3 cents. Yeah.
Especially since they'd have to split it between all the band members, they'd basically only get like $1,000 each.
Well, that's when they'd really get into the question. Like, okay, who's an official band member? I've been on all your albums, yes, but are you official? We need to really divvy this up,
Actually, Dakota, that's your next mission, to find out who's actually an official member.
I have it right in front of me, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah. Who is
Win Butler and his brother Will Butler.
Oh, yeah.
But he's
Regine, his wife.
All related so far.
And then Richard Reed Perry.
Yeah.
Tim Kingsbury. And Jeremy Guerra.
Really?
Sarah Neufeld apparently was a full-time member for a few years, but is no longer. But she still is a contributor.
How does that happen? Like, do they say, like, hey, you're not an official member anymore, and they, like, cross you off the list?
I think she probably wanted to work on her own stuff, and it probably conflicted with either touring or recording with them. So I don't think it's any kind of animosity. Just like, why isn't Owen Pallett and Colin Stetson full-time members, yet they've been on, I think, 3 of the 4 records, each of them.
So I wonder if they get less pay, probably.
They probably get paid as session musicians, and then if they are considered a writer, they'd get writer royalties.
And they tour with them, too.
They do, yeah. They usually do. I imagine because they're not full-time members, they have the ability that
why would you not just want to be a full-time member?
I don't think it's do I want to or do I not want to. It's more so easily compact of who is a writer, who do we credit Arcade Fire to? Because once you start inviting everyone as a full-time member, then, you know, everyone has to be paid differently. All the legal stuff is different. So, you know, for someone like Owen Powell, it's easier for him to be like, okay, well, yeah, I'll do all your string arrangements and I'll tour with you. But, you know, when I have my solo album and tour come out, I won't be with you.
Yeah.
So he can back away. Whereas, you know, someone like Win Butler, if he wants to do his DJ thing, he can't do it in the middle of an Arcade Fire tour.
He can open or something.
He can open, yeah, but he won't be able to, like, you know, play in a different city.
Yeah, that's funny. And so, yeah, so what did you take from this whole thing of doing the predictions and actually physically being there?
From the predictions, I learned that everyone has very varied taste, and I'm apparently the only one that loves Timber Timbre. But no, for me, I really enjoy doing stuff like this. I like having things as lists and counting things up. So it was a lot of fun to have everyone involved in it. It was, yeah.
Good old spreadsheet.
I don't get enough of that at work.
No.
So I just really enjoyed the fact that everyone was down and excited for my idea, and that it was met with enthusiasm by everyone that worked on it. Like, I would get an email from Tashana asking me a question, being all excited about it, and Sarah sending me a text, and Andreas and I chatting over BBM over what we thought about different people, and Randall and I talking over Facebook messaging and things like that. So I was very happy that everyone was very engaged with it, and they were interested in it, and that I know that if I want to do either this exact thing or something similar with a different project, that I'll at least have a few people that will probably be interested in doing the legwork. Because in reality, it was listening to music, which is something we all love to do.
Yeah,
that's
we
why
would have done that anyways, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if it wasn't for doing this, I was probably already well aware of maybe four or five albums. So why not just be familiar with the other 4 or 5, whatever it would be.
Exactly, go all the way.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, Andreas, you'd be the same way. You probably are familiar with most of them, and, you know, a couple of them you learned about, and now you might be a fan of because of it.
Yeah, actually, like, before you joined the conversation, like, before all of this whole podcast, Sean, Randall, and myself were just talking about the Mercury Prize, which is kind of like the UK equivalent, not really, but that's how I see it.
They base it off of it.
Yeah, basically. And I was looking at that, and I was like, I recognize like maybe 3 or 4 of these. I haven't heard all of the rest, but I was kind of intrigued, right? Just to kind of see where everything sat. And out of all of the music awards, like Junos, Grammys, anything included, like the only one I kind of have respect for, well, I guess Mercury as well, is Polaris, because I feel like there's a lot of actual, like artistic integrity within who usually wins and behind the nominees, and there's a lot more than just sales. And yeah, 100%, I'd have some sort of an inkling of interest regardless of if you did this or not, and I'm glad that you did, because it gave me a reason to actually check out everything in full. And I became a huge fan of some albums like Jesse Lanza's, which I didn't listen to much great detail until this poll happened. So, like, yeah, thanks for doing this.
No, yeah, it's a great way. Like, both of, like, the Polaris and the Mercury and any other similar kind of award is to try get new discoveries out there, right?
Absolutely. And like, as far as the Polaris Prize goes, if they want to say, okay, well, we're going to include some Canadian hip hop, how difficult would have it been for them to include something like Classified or Cardinal Offishell or things like that? Does that really represent the best of Canadian hip hop? Like, Shad is immensely talented. He's been running his thing for years. Almost every single one of his albums have been nominated for the Polaris Prize, but the average listener, hip hop listener, probably doesn't know who Shad is.
That's sad.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they kind of stick with him, because it would have been so much easier for them to list Classified or I can't even think of other poppy hip hop acts, Canadian hip hop acts.
Who else do we have?
Kanon, yeah, like something like that. His first album was nominated for the Polaris.
Yeah.
But like since then he's gone very poppy and kind of generic with his hip hop, whereas someone like Shad has very much stayed true to the conscious hip hop, Mos Def, Talib Kweli type of style.
Yeah.
Has Justin Bieber ever been nominated?
Every year, yes. Never Say Never was the runner up last year.
Oh man,
He's always under a different moniker though. Like this year, he was under Yamataka Sonic Titan.
Yes, I believe last year he was credited under Godspeed You. I think he was a part of Fucked Up.
Yeah,
that'd
absolutely.
be funny. Yeah.
That's why he didn't show up last year, because he said, "Oh my goodness, I actually won." Write something on their website, and then suddenly you see like members of Godspeed You go to the website and say, "What? We didn't say this." No, but
Yeah.
Randall, did you listen to Never Say Never?
No, I didn't actually.
Good job.
will you ever?
Maybe I will.
Okay, because you can never say never, as we've learned from this Canadian Idol of sorts.
And so Dakota.
Well, I know it's something funny. I probably could not name a single Justin Bieber song.
Neither could I.
Except for that one. That's it.
baby, whatever. What is that? Is that what it's called?
Well, I'm sure a lot of songs are called that.
I don't know.
Oh,
I legit single song by him. I remember hearing him when he first came out years ago, but I cannot tell you a song or how it goes for any of them.
oh. So how would you make this predictions methodology better for next year? What would you like to do?
I think having more people is definitely key.
Should we start earlier?
Well, you can't, because I sent it out basically as soon as the nominations came out.
Yeah.
Because the long list comes out in like June, and I'm not gonna sit through and listen to 40 albums or try to find 40 albums, because a lot of them are difficult to find. I had a hard time finding Tanya Tagaq's album, and also there's another one. I think it was Yam and Talk. I had a hard time finding that, and
you guys need like RDO or something where you can listen to everything. I had no problem finding Tanya's album.
Yeah, that's how you told me to listen to it, which thankfully I was able to.
Wait, so when you listen to it for free, do they play ads or something? How does that work?
Yes, there was ads.
Like every other song?
Something like that, 2 or 3 songs.
Okay, that's okay.
Sometimes they shuffle it around as well, which is annoying.
Yeah. Oh well, at least you could still listen to it. So Andreas, you did it like that?
Yeah, basically, I had the advertisements where it was like, well, how do they go again? It's like, hi, this radio is interesting, or something like that. Like, it was very self-aware that it was a radio station. It's like, oh my goodness. And then like the actual music would come back, and it's like, you know, this uncommercial, like very natural, organic music. And then suddenly out of nowhere, hey there. It's like, oh.
It's like a
I think mine
gecko.
were all like Lowe's ads or something.
What does?
Lowe's. Like
what Lowe's ads?
I don't remember how they went, but I'm just pretty sure when I was listening to the album,
like the home improvement store.
Yeah, there were Lowe's
that's
ads.
Weird.
There were low. Oh, I thought you said I thought you said your phone like loathes ads, as in like you had like an ad blocker or something. I was like, that's a way to put it. Lowe's. Okay, that's interesting because
Lowe's, the home improvement place, like Home Depot.
Back to Arcade Fire.
There you go. That's interesting because you know, Tanya Tagaq's album has a lot to do with the structure of society, and I've got nothing. There's no reason for these advertisements at all.
I would like to actually like for you or us, if we can, to find a way to predict the actual winner like better.
I think
we were not close.
Well,
we put her at 8th.
The problem
if it wasn't for Randall, we'd be screwed.
I made it because I wanted to see where everyone's taste lined up. That if we were the actual grand jury, how would we vote and who would come out on top? And so that's why I was fine with, you know, Arcade Fire coming at number 1 and Tanya Tagaq coming at number 8. Our taste presented. I didn't want it to be like Sarah had sent me a message and asked me, do you want me to vote as if I would vote for my own taste, or vote for who I think might win, or who I think might have the best album in the eyes of the jury?
And what did
because
you tell
then,
her?
you know, like how would you do that? You know, you look at something, you go, oh well, Arcade Fire is very well received. They got great reviews. Pitchfork called it the album of the year, whatever they did, and things like that. They should be number one.
I think that's what I did. I second guessed myself quite a bit on that.
Whereas, like, Tanya Tagaq, she's never had a nomination before. I've never heard of her. She can't possibly win.
Wait, so Sarah voted for Drake because she thought he would win, or she actually liked his music?
To be truthfully honest, I think it's
she really loves Drake.
Well, she's allowed to.
Yeah.
I think she thought Drake was going to win.
Oh, maybe.
Going over all of her comments, she didn't really show her hand of what she thought was the best if it was not Drake.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe she honestly believed that. I can see. Take care. Or no, sorry. Nothing was the same. See that it is flawed. See that there's parts of it I don't like, but I can appreciate for what it was trying to achieve, and per se. I maybe that's the reason why she voted it first overall. I'm not too sure.
See, for me, for Arcade Fire, I was like in a huge debate with like, I don't think they're gonna give it to them again and stuff like that. I think for next year, when you do this, when I see the nominees, I'm just gonna try wipe everything I know about them like off the table, like everything they've done, how long they've been around, and just listen to that album for what it is and try not to look at their name.
And I think you have to do that because the other thing is, you're listening to Arcade Fire and you're listening to Reflektor and you go, okay, yeah, I love Normal Person and Joan of Arc, and these are great songs. But then you start subconsciously comparing it to Suburbs, and you're comparing it to Mountains Beyond Mountains and Rococo, and then you're comparing it to Funeral and all this sort of thing. And so, are you listening to Arcade Fire, Reflektor, just as Reflektor, or are you listening to it as the fourth album in their career? And then if you're not doing that, are you comparing it to the Suburbs, which by most people accounts was a far superior album because it won every award under the sun? So are you comparing Reflektor to the Suburbs? Are you comparing it on its own? If you are, do you take into account what they stand for based on their earlier work? It becomes a very complicated process.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I tried to distance myself from who I think would win technically, this and that. And I do believe, like, in a personal, like, out of the enjoyment I got out of it, that Reflektor was the best out of the pick because it made, like, my end of the year lists by far. I gave it, like, a huge rating. And I honestly do believe that. And, like, with everything else, like Mac DeMarco, he's stripped down. He's got, like, nothing, like, technically crazy going for him, but in terms of like the complete package, I preferred it. Now, if I wanted to truly take into account professionalism, I'd put somebody like Shad over Mac DeMarco, for instance. But in terms of like who I actually preferred and got enjoyment out of, I said, yeah, you know what, Mac DeMarco is like high on my list because I love Salad Days. I think it's terrific. And I know that wouldn't be a great indicator as to who would actually win. But I feel like with everybody's polls like pooled in together, that we'd get a better read of how we genuinely felt as opposed to this kind of like manufactured idea of what should win and not who we hoped truly.
Yeah. Randall, what do you think? Final thoughts?
Well, I think well, first of all, I got to thank, Dakota. I think it was a great idea and you, Sean, for getting us to do this. It was a lot of fun. I think that I don't really think that you should try to predict. I mean, I really like the way, hopefully, that people did it, where it was just about what you thought for you was the best. And I think that's how it should be. I think that's how it should be in Polaris for them to do it. So I think the integrity of the, I guess, poll or the Polaris Prize that way is a little, if you start thinking, they won this previous year, I think that it's not the way to go, because really you're not judging it on its merits, which is what the prize is all about.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Andreas, where can all of our listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Andreas Babs. And again, thank you, Dakota, for hosting this, and for Sean for helping it be possible with finding some albums. And it was great. And I can't wait until next year when we're all proven wrong yet again and Randall rises to the top. And you can see again my faulty picks at Andreas Babs on Twitter.
And Dakota, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dgapa, DGAPA, and also dgapa.tumblr.com for my other random writings.
That's right. There's lots of good stuff there as well. And Randall, Director of Photography, where can all of our listeners find you?
You can just find me on Twitter at The Rock Show, or just at therockshow.com, and anything on Live in Limbo.
Exactly. That's great. And you can find myself on Twitter at Sean Chin. Please follow the show on Twitter at Live in Limbo and use the hashtag Capsule Podcast to join in on the conversation. Please subscribe to the show on iTunes. And of course, you can find the show notes at liveinlimbo.com/capsule. Take care, everyone.